Let's read some Glitch in the Matrix stories, part 157. My hometown is haunted by aliens. I can't believe I haven't submitted this yet. I guess it was so normal to me growing up, I sometimes forget how creepy it got. I grew up in a very, very small town in the middle of a wooded nowhere. When I say small, I mean one flashing red light at the only intersection in town, and even that was a good bit from where my house was. My family lived there for over 10 years. I regularly had dreams throughout those years that didn't feel quite like dreams. In them, my entire family would just stand outside at night and wait. What? I'd wake with memories of being on the opposite side of town and seeing one of my neighbors in the dead of night, also just standing around. Many years later, I finally brought it up to a group of friends and people I went to high school with, and evidently, I was not the only one to experience stuff like that in our town. We joked that it was aliens. Honestly, I'm pretty sure it was. When I was pregnant with my daughter, almost due, I got up to go to the bathroom in the night, and I got this overwhelming urge to look out the bathroom window at the sky. Keep in mind, it's pitch black. I'm in the boonies, and from that angle, I see nothing much but the woods anyway. Still, the urge was so strong, I almost did, but as I contemplated it, I heard a voice in my head shout, "Don't, they'll hurt her." They'll hurt who? But her what? What? This was definitely not my own voice, nor my own thoughts, and that unnerved me. I immediately took it to be a threat to my unborn daughter somehow, and it really shook me up. I went back to bed and contemplated waking up my significant other and telling them about it, but I felt stupid, so I didn't. A couple of days later, I woke up to hear this weird noise outside. It was almost a metallic grinding noise. I have no other way to describe it, and it was coming from above us. The bedroom was on the second floor. It didn't fade and didn't move. It just eventually ended. It was not a plane, construction vehicle, garbage truck, or anything else familiar. It was summer, not a snowplow. It was the dead of night. This was a pretty private road you didn't drive down unless you lived there, and like I said, the sound wasn't coming from the road, it was coming from above us. I once again felt the urge to look outside to investigate, but couldn't shake the feeling it was dangerous and pretended to be asleep. Something about it made me feel really, really uneasy. Once again, I thought of saying something to my significant other, but didn't. In the morning, I asked them if they had heard any noises last night. They told me that they had, described the same thing I had heard, and said that they had thought about waking me, and it also made them feel weird. We had both been laying there awake, petrified, and pretending to be asleep. When my daughter was a year old, I moved. She is 9 years old now, and I have never experienced this anywhere else I've lived. You will never convince me that my hometown isn't haunted by aliens or something. Sometimes I fantasize about moving back home, but if I'm honest, I'm scared to. Receipts from my Facebook post a few years ago, comments by the people I went to school with, and my mother. Let's take a look. Like my dream when I was on that blank road and I was surrounded by people all just looking down the street, and then it got really bright and I was getting an injection. Then I woke up with a bruise in my arm. I loved being outside, but every night after I had been in one of our cornfields, I would have these unbelievably realistic dreams. Nothing I ever had before living with my mom, and nothing even close to it since I've moved. They always shook me up and I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep. I would wake up from them feeling like my whole body was vibrating. I lived less than 3 minutes away from you on the same road, which makes it even crazier. I used to have strange dreams too. Most of mine were that I was flying over town but still stayed right above the road. I always felt like I was giving a tour of blank, pointing to houses and saying who lived there and how I knew them, or pointing somewhere and saying a memory from that place. I was pretty little, and I remember telling an older kid on the bus who for some reason was always with me in the dreams about them, and he told me to never talk about it, and Pinky promised me that he wouldn't let me fall. After he graduated and left town, I never had those dreams again. He came up on my you may know list a few weeks ago, and it legit freaked me out to the point that I almost blocked him. It's weird. I lived in blank and had really weird dreams like that too. My parents live out in the middle of nowhere. We've seen many strange lights in the sky. One night we had some funky lights fly over the house, followed by an extremely low-flying, huge plane that we could only assume was military grade. As your mother, I can back you up on the strange happenings. I have lived in 8 states and more houses than I can count, and I have never had the same stuff happen anyplace else. As for if it was safe, there are good and bad in all beings. Think of the way humans use animals to do medical testing. We give animals cancer to try to cure it. Never let it panic you, but don't ignore your instinct. So they were basically like aliens just around all the time in this little tiny town? Is that what was happening? Were people being like regularly abducted, or were they just like around? And who was that voice saying like, don't, they'll hurt her? Like someone was trying to protect her from whatever it was. And I think it's so awesome that she put this on Facebook and all these people commented saying they had similar experiences. I love when people have like similar corroborating experiences and stories. This was a good one.